did it go well for him, but he shot the ball well down there. And I remember talking to Yannick afterward about, not about how he played, but I said, well, what'd you think of Miami? He says, oh, man, I love Miami. That was great. He said it was warm. It was nice. All right. And I'd said, I think it was to Pat Flannery. I said, at the minimum, Pat, he's going to get invited to the NBA G League Elite Camp. I mean, he'll at least get an invite to that, which he ended up getting. When I looked at the rosters for the G League Elite, I wasn't looking at the other players in the G League Elite. I could care less. I wanted to see who the other centers were. And I thought, he's going to dominate this group. Because there's 44 players there, 11 per team. And I said, he's going to dominate that group. And he did. Now, I thought he would come back to earth in the combine. And in some ways he did. But and so he was nowhere near as dominant as he was in the G League Elite. So that played out the way I thought it would. But the bottom line is with anything, and I when I was teaching, I would talk to my students about jobs. And I said, look, you could apply for 100 jobs. If 99 say no, all you need is one to say yes. And so in this case, you have 30 teams out there. It does not matter if 27 of them are like, nah, he doesn't fit what we want to do, or 28. If he's got one or two that think he fits, great. Now, the other part, too, is keep in mind this. As the last 48 hours progressed, what happened with the NBA draft? One by one, players were surprising people by going back to their schools. The freshman from Alabama decided to go back. Pritchard decided to go back to Auburn. Owe ended up going back to Kentucky. Because, again, we're in that NIL era right now. And that lasts for another 5 weeks, where it's the Wild West for 5 more weeks. So these people are getting legit money. And believe me, Yannick was offered legit cash to stay. He was. Right? But there's another element that plays a role in this. We talk about his athleticism, his shot, and so forth. And if he's got a team or two that really loves him and they're telling him that, hey, that plays a role. So as each one entered the draft, guess what happened with Yannick? Anytime somebody in front of him entered the draft on the big board, he moved up one. And then he moved up another one. And then he moved up another one. He might be on the cusp of being one of the 35 guys. I know it's a 30-player first round, but if you can get in the top 35, you're in pretty good shape. But here's the other element that I think plays into this that people have not talked about. Yannick's also 22. Okay? He is not a 19-year-old coming out. So something that you had to weigh in your mind is, and Zach Edey was older when he was drafted. Edey's was 22 or 23 when he was drafted in the first round by Memphis. But did it play a role maybe for him and people around him that, hey, next year you're going to be 23, and sometimes 23 in the NBA is less desirable, and he's hit it hot right now, and he's done it at the age of 22, and they're not holding the age part against him. Right? They're looking at his athleticism. He's fresh. Okay? It's interesting about the scouts. Some scouts said, well, yeah, he really fell into the radar. Well, you're not doing your job. Okay? No offense, but he's not playing in Conference USA. He's not playing in the Northeast Conference. He's playing in the Big Ten. So I'm thrilled for him, and I want to see this work out because he'd be the first player drafted since Seth Lundy, because both Jalen Pickett and Seth Lundy were taken in the same draft. Lundy being later, so he's the last guy drafted. Okay. All right. But can you imagine in 3 years Penn State having 3 players drafted in the NBA? It hasn't happened in my career. And my career goes back a couple of years. Maybe 4 decades plus. All right. But I'm thrilled for him. Now, for Penn State, like I said, after the Miami situation, after Miami, I think they started to sense like, okay, this is real now. Okay, that's in the beginning of April. You know darn well they formulated like, okay, well, we have to adjust here, just in case. Now, they're right now the roster's at 9. I think when it's all said and done, the roster is going to be probably 12. There's going to be 2 more coming in. There's a process when it's not an American player, right? And who knows? They may dip back in again with that. You're going to have a young team. Everybody knows that. There are going to be people that are down on the program because of how it went last year. There are going to be people that are down on the program because Yannick's not a part of the mix. I can't tell you, outside of Purdue, Wisconsin, and Michigan State, and maybe to a point Michigan, how good anybody in the league is. If you're going to sit there and if you're going to tell me X, Y, and Z are great in the Big Ten, how do you know? Have you looked at the rosters? Because this is not 2010, where you sit there and go, okay, they got these 3 freshmen coming in. They lost these guys to the NBA draft. These guys graduated, and this is the core group back plus what they recruited. That's not how things work. For example, Maryland. Maryland, in its spring roster, had 11 players on it. You know how many players played at Maryland last year? None. Washington has 3 returning players. All right. Indiana, Darian DeVries, the best player he's bringing in is his son, who's a heck of a player, by the way. He just got hurt last year and he could only play 8 games at West Virginia. Right? I mean, how good's Iowa? I don't know. A lot of those Drake players did come over with Ben McCollum. I think 5 of them did, including the point guard. But I don't know how good they are. How good's Minnesota? I don't know. I mean, again, people make a lot of assumptions about where your roster, this is awful. You have no idea how good anybody else is. Maybe the people they brought in are terrific and they're going to be great teams. I don't know. Like certain teams, Purdue brought in 1 transfer, and that's the big kid from South Dakota State who came in. He's going to help them. He's going to be a good player for them. Wisconsin didn't change up anybody. Michigan State really didn't, except for recruits, didn't change up anybody. Right? But a lot of teams in the Big Ten have changed up their personnel. And again, we're just going to have to see who's good and who's not, because I don't know. And we know with Penn State, they've got to get, cracking with, the 2 foreign players that they're already in the pipeline to bring in, but there's a process to do it, so the process isn't quite complete yet. And then I think that, for obvious reasons, I'd rather have at least a 12th guy around there somewhere, right? 15 is the limit, but I never once said that they were going to be at 15. Never. I've said 13 was probably going to be the limit anyway. And then we'll just see how it plays out. I don't know. I mean, it's easy to make assumptions about, because what do they have? 3 guys transfer out?
Yeah.
Okay, Javin he wanted a shot to play more. He wanted to start, so he ended up at Middle Tennessee State. Miles transferred out. Now we know there's been an issue since legally, which I'm not going to get into. But it's not like Miles doesn't have some talent, but he doesn't, no offense, he doesn't know how to play. Right? It's going to be a process for him, and he needs weight. The injury he had last summer really held him back because he wasn't able to hit the weight room. I mean, at all. He could do some weight work with his legs, but that was it. And you could see during the games that, there are certain moments like, okay, and then there are other moments where he's lost out there. We'll see how he does, at Oregon. Although Biddle, what's going to help him is Biddle's coming back, Biddle went through the NBA draft process. He's coming back. And what the other one was Kachi, transferred out. Yeah. Kachi had a baffling season. Baffling. Dick Girardi saw Kachi play a lot at the George School for Ben Luber. And, man, he loved what he saw. And that's why Xavier thought he was going to be terrific. And then something happened to him at Xavier. And it's almost like they're, and I'm going by what Dick saw at George School versus what we saw at Xavier and then we saw here. Like there was a loss of confidence somewhere. And I don't know if he's landed with anybody yet, to my knowledge. So, that's where they are. It would, when you look at, it's in this era, it's very difficult to have developmental programs. The three primary developmental programs in the Big Ten, and they're easy to pick out, they're Purdue, they're Michigan State, and Wisconsin. They're primarily the developmental programs. It doesn't mean that Wisconsin doesn't bring in a John Tanji to help out their lineup, okay, or Max Klesmit, who's helped out their lineup. For the most part, like their guys have come through the system. They're developmental players. But what do all three of those programs have in common? All three of those programs had in common longtime head coaches that had established them on the national landscape. And I'm not talking about the current head coaches. Okay? You got to take this a little bit deeper, a little bit further. Matt Painter took over for Gene Cady. And Matt's done a great job of putting his own stamp on that program, but the longevity and the developmental part of the Purdue program was already in place, and Matt did a great job of continuing it and enhancing it because Matt got to the national championship game and Gene never could get to the Final Four. Circumstances enter into it. Okay? Tom Izzo took over for Judd Heathcote. Okay? Heathcote had won a national championship, had some really good teams at Michigan State along the way, right? He took over something that was established in I would say in good shape when Tom took over. Tom then turned it into, he turned it into a mansion. Okay? All right? With all the Final Fours and the national title. When he took it over, Judd's teams had started to slide down a little bit, and I think Judd knew it was time. And then Izzo, to his credit, came in and took care of that. Greg Gard steps in for Bo Ryan, and they had back-to-back Final Four appearances, including a national championship game appearance. And he used the same formula that had been used for a long time there about getting guys in a developmental program where they added in a guy here or there. Like Frank Kaminsky, his first 2 years at Wisconsin was, okay. Didn't think too much about it. And then his third year, like, okay. And then his fourth year, like, holy mother, he is something else. First 2 years, I never would have. Now, Sam Decker, you saw it the whole time. Sam Decker, you saw it from day one. But Kaminsky was the perfect example of the developmental program where he develops, gets better, boom, okay?
Much better shooter as the time went on.
A lot
no
better
question.
Everything.
Yeah.
A lot better. Yeah. There isn't a single part of his game that was not better by the time his third year was there. The first 2 years, he was like, okay, you didn't even think, he's going to play, but you didn't think much of him. right? Like, okay, all right, he'll play. Right? Then the third year, like, okay, he's a problem. Fourth year, he is a gigantic problem. Okay. Close in being a developmental program is Northwestern. Okay. But that's about it. Nobody else is really a developmental program in the conference. Oregon has a fair amount of transfer turnover, even though Dana's been there a long time. But you'd love to get Penn State into that spot where you could have that really good recruiting class. They grow up. Another recruiting class goes in, and now they're growing up together. And then another recruiting class comes in. And you're adding in transfers here and there to accentuate either what you have or to plug the hole of what you're missing. College basketball, for the most part, across the country is not like that. I mean, they can make a big deal and jump up and down. We got Otega Oweh back. That's also his second school, third school?
Third.
It's his third school, for goodness sakes. Okay. I mean, Janai Broom, he was great. Oh, look at the job Bruce Pearl did with him. He's at Morehead State. He transferred from Morehead State. Yeah, moved up. College basketball is completely different in that you have a limited number of developmental programs. And you can change things around with the portal. But as we saw when Mike came in, in 59 days, he had to get 10 players. Oh, I mean, it's a whirlwind. And for Penn State, I talked about the developmental programs. A long time, Bo Ryan's there after Bo took over. I mean, they've really been stable in the coaching part of it. Ryan to Greg Gard, seamless transition. Greg's done a great job with it. Gene to Matt Painter. Heathcote to Izzo. Right? I mean, you're looking at Chris Collins. I think Chris is going into his 18th season. 18th, 19th season at Northwestern. Mike's the fourth coach this decade at Penn State. They haven't had the stability.
No.
It's like the previous administration in October 2020 decided Pat wasn't going to be the coach any longer. Jim Ferry's the interim for a year. Micah Shrewsbury last 2 years, now Mike. Right? Now, I'm talking about like 3 elite programs and one that I think Northwestern, Chris does a good job. It's a very good program. But they've had long-term coaching stability. Whether it was, I mean, Greg's now been there a long time after Bo was there for a long time. Tommy's been there forever after Judd had been there forever. Okay? After Gene Cady had been there forever, Matt Painter has now been there forever. I mean, they've got stability in that area, right? And you've got, and I know it's easy because of what happened in January and into February, that 6-week span where things went wrong. I think they only had, the one win over Rutgers after the Northwestern win. Yep. And it's easy to take shots at one guy, and that's the coach. It's Mike. Look, as somebody who's around it every day, so I'm going to give at least my perspective being around it every day, which means I'm at practice. I see how the players are treated. I see how they're coached. I see how they're pushed. I see how they're hugged. Okay? Mike can coach. I mean, Mike isn't a good coach. I think Mike is an excellent coach. I think Mike has done a great job of bringing players along with Brett Scott and Jamal Brunt and Joe Crispin. Okay, now you got Taylor Battle there. All right? And look at what happened with Yannick in a year. Well, that's Yannick, and it's also the coaching. Look how much better Freddie DeLeon was as the season went along. Same story. It's Freddie and the work he put in, and also how he's being coached. Okay? Eli Rice, I'm watching him now. He's a better player than he was a year ago. You can see it. Okay? Dom Stewart. I mean, Dom Stewart, young player, they're molding, and Dom's become a better player. Right? So the key for me moving forward is going to be the important word of stability. Stability of coaching staff and stability of keeping the roster together. Obviously, you don't know what you get until you get them, but because they had more time this time on the recruiting trail, exponentially more time this time on the recruiting trail. Because remember, the first time through, 10 players, 59 days. Oh, and by the way, let's get a recruiting class to sign in November. Now this time they had more time. I know they put a lot more into, because of the time they had, they were able to make, in talking to Mike, they feel like they made better decisions on players to sign this time through. And of course, Caden Mingo is going to be the key guy moving forward. How are they going to compete against the Big Ten? I don't know. Okay? If you're going to sit there and be and spout off as, oh, and this and that, you have no idea who USC has. You have no idea who UCLA has. Nobody's got a roster out. How good's Washington? They claim they're going to be better. I don't know. I don't know. Because the roster's changed so much. I mean, for everybody. For everybody. I mean, there aren't many rosters, for example, like Navy. They sit there and go, okay, because of the commitment, everybody's back. Right? Yeah. And John Perry, by the way, is now the head coach at Navy. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, JP got the job, which I'm thrilled for him. You know, Eddie decided to retire, and they moved JP up, which was great. So I'm happy for him. But everybody else, it's changing. It's moving parts all over the place. And something that's going to change college basketball this year will be the fact that the COVID years are now up. You know, and the SEC really benefited last year from COVID years of key players. They were able to get the extra year, and it helped them. Because, almost everybody that played last year was older. Everywhere you looked, it was older. So I don't, I won't know much about this team till I watch them practice. The three freshmen I've never seen play. The transfer from Cincinnati. I caught a couple of Cincinnati games, but I wasn't sitting there watching him. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know how it's all put together, how you play. Can you hit enough shots? How are you going to play the game? And let's see how the freshman point guard fits in and operates, and how does Dom Stewart fit in with him, and how does Freddie DeLeon fit in, and how do they want to play it? And these players that still aren't here yet, how are they? And considering people don't know anything about them, it's kind of hard right now to sit there and say, okay, I don't see a lot of wins. Well, you don't even know who's here yet. And not only that, to your credit, you have no idea who's on the other teams. It's like Purdue, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Northwestern. Yeah, we pretty much know who's on those teams. That's 4. Yeah. Now, something that's interesting I found is you saw that the ACC rolled from 20 back to 18. Okay, under the radar. Big 12 did the same thing. The Big 12 rolled from 20 back to 18 conference games. Now, I'm wondering if the Big 10 is going to sit there and be stubborn about this. Because you can do 18 easy.
Yes.
Okay? It's 1 home and away and 17 one plays. That's fine. Okay? But I'm wondering if the Big 10 is going to get to the point Now, we already know they're committed to 20 for the upcoming season because they've already listed who you're playing and where you're playing. That's already out. 20 opponents. You have 3 home and aways, 14 one plays. 7 are designated as being road games, 7 are being designated as home games. But will they consider rolling back to 18 conference games to fit in with what the ACC and the Big 12 are doing, and the SEC has continued to do? The SEC never went to 20 games. But the ACC was a big deal for them because, what, they get 3 teams in the tournament last year? They got Duke, Clemson, and North Carolina.
North Carolina, yep.
Right? And North Carolina was gifted a spot. And they decided, it was very public, they're going from 20 back to 18. The Big 12 wasn't as public about it. Like, it wasn't much hoopla about it because, in part because, you know, I think when the Big 12 gets 7 teams in the NCAA tournament, so it wasn't as much of a move because of, they had 7 in because the Big 10 had 8. And they're going back to 18. So the only one at 20 is the Big 10. My question moving forward would be, will the Big 10 a year from now make that move back to 18 conference games and give you 13 non-cons to play with? Now, it puts a little more pressure on you scheduling-wise. But at the same time, you also have more control over your schedule.
Yeah. Yep.
You have more control over it.
Absolutely.
So, hey, I'm thrilled for Yannick. You know, to put him, if you're around him and you know him, he's a guy you think the world of. I want him to be drafted as high as possible and be in the best situation possible. Right? Okay? Gee, the exact same words I said about Abdul Carter when he went early. Players go early.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, he had a senior season available to him, as did Abdul Carter. Okay? And he's not going to get Abdul Carter money because he was the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Yannick's trying to fight his way into the top 35, but based on attrition, he might get there. And all it takes is one team.
Yeah, literally.
To sit there and go, you know what, we think this guy can really play for us. And they pick him maybe at the end of round 1. I don't know. It's a 7-footer who can move, and you didn't really see evidence of this as much, but because I'm in practice every day, Yannick can shoot the outside shot.
Yeah, and that's...
He can shoot it. That down in Miami, that was like the first indicator. Like, I guess he shot it well down there.
Yeah, and that, I think, is the indicator that you're going to need now in the NBA. I think when you look at the game hasn't changed, but the approach has changed in a lot of ways, I think, in these last 20 to 30 years. The NBA, like I said, for many years was a big man's game. You know, what you had Wilt,
sure.
you had Russell, you had Kareem.
You had Thurman, you had also Willis
Bob
Reed,
Pettit.
you had some really good big guys. And they were the focal point of what was going on out there.
Yeah, and then it became, then became a guards game. And now it's become the point where, is it still a guards game? Yes, but you're also looking for that guy that is going to be that 7-footer that can hit that shot, that can bring that defense outward. I think that to set up pick and rolls, to set up backdoor, to set up a lot of isolation. There's a lot of things that you can do so much more by having that 7-footer that can be effective at the top of the key or can shoot the 3.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, you're seeing it now. Obviously, the book's not completely out on Wemby just yet. It won't be, but I think
Wembanyama's a good player.
Exactly. You're seeing what he now has done that has helped change the game even more the other way. Where yes, it's still a guards game, but it's a game where you have that 7-footer that can have range.
Yep. And he's got that.
Absolutely.
Now, does he have to improve on that shot? Of course he does. I mean, he only took 11 threes last year. He was 1 of 11. But I know that Joe Chrisman had wanted to incorporate more of that into his game. All he has to do is, in a pro game, is attempt 3 a game. And if he hits 1, now they got to go out and play him. Good for him. I hope he doesn't get. I hope whatever he gets him a contract that puts him on the primary team, and and I hope he doesn't get the two-way deal.
The two-way, yeah.
Seth Lundy was on. Seth Lundy was on the two-way deal with Atlanta when he got picked. I think Seth's with the Clippers now. And then Andrew Funk was on a two-way deal with the Bulls as an undrafted free agent. Now, that doesn't mean you don't float back and forth. I mean, Jalen Pickett did, in his rookie year, float back and forth between Grand Rapids and Denver. I mean, he did do that. That's why when Dick and I did a game out at Michigan State, Andrew and Jalen came over to the game. We talked to them for about 10, 15 minutes after the game. Because they were both with Grand Rapids at that moment. It's also in the state of Michigan, just so you know. It's on the other side.
I think Andrew Funk is still there, I believe.
He is.
Yep.
I mean, he was with Chicago last year in a two-way.
Yep.
Right, but then he went back to Grand Rapids. So that's where they are. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and
it's
pretend.
hard to tell. It's not.
I can't sit here and tell you.
No.
Because there's a bunch of players there that I haven't seen play before.
Right.
And by the way, there are a bunch of players on the other teams I haven't seen play before either. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest with everybody. In other words, I'm not trying to sit here like some people do and make it up. I don't want to make it up. That's ridiculous. That's bad for the fans. So I don't know. They're going to get back June 12th, and they're really going to get on the court, I think, right around the 15th or 16th or something like that. I think it's the 16th. They're actually going to get out in the court. I'll start watching them then. And we'll kind of get a feel and a read as to what's going on at that point with this team. Now, I need to know, and the audience probably doesn't need to know, but I'm going to ask anyway, how enjoyable was Sunday with Metallica?
Oh, it was excellent. Absolutely.
I'm thrilled for you.
Yep, always a great time, and certainly was again this time around.
Yeah, no, it's great. No. Look, anybody who has a healthy passion for something, I'm thrilled for. Right? I mean, do I think Metallica's good? Yeah. Would I ever see them in concert? No. I have no desire to. Like, none. That's not me downing them, because I think they're good. But you love the band.
Yeah.
And you love the music. You love the atmosphere, the whole thing. And so I think that's great. That's a healthy, passion to have, to enjoy something like that. And people should be going out and doing things that are fun. You've heard me. How many times have you heard me say, "Hey, look, if you're going to live the life, you might as well have some fun."
Yeah,
I've said that over and over again.
Only once.
Absolutely. You've heard me say that how many times? Look, okay, it's okay to have fun. In 2020, they tried to make sure everybody. Look, in 2020, they tried to make sure nobody had fun. Well, the heck with them. Let's go have fun. Okay, all right. And I'm thrilled you went. I'm thrilled you had such a great time. So that's cool. Did you buy any merch?
Just a shirt, actually. I scaled back a little bit this time. I just have so much I don't know what to do with most of it. So literally at the point now, it's like,
Did you get a T-shirt, a golf shirt? What'd you
T-shirt, regular T-shirt. Yep. They always incorporate the city into the shirt, which I think is cool. The poster was a design of a basically a caricature eating a cheesesteak with a Super Bowl ring on, which I thought was pretty cool. But and that's literally and the shirt's the same exact thing.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
See, now what that tells me is this, and there has to be more of this. And it's something I emphasized when I was teaching to students over and over again. You take care of the little things. The big things take care of themselves.
Sure.
Too often, mistakes are made when you try to jump from A to Z.
Uh-huh.
But if you're smart and can take care of B through Y, those are the other 24 letters.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Just kind of
learn them quickly.
2-3 years ago.
It's more like 5.
Oh, I see. I underestimated you. But if you take care of all those little things, like It's just a T-shirt. Well, not to them. They took care of the little things in the T-shirt.
Absolutely.
They gave it value.
Cool design, absolutely.
Because they took care of little things.
Yep.
Right? It's just a T-shirt. There's no such thing as just when you're doing something.
Yeah.
Don't ever just do just. There's no such thing as just. Coaches versus Cancer will be tomorrow. We'll have Nate Bauer on as an interview for tomorrow's show. There was a big thing up front. They didn't want you in the building. I said, I can give you an interview. I don't know what that meant. I was appalled. No, but I'll be playing tomorrow morning. I'm in the morning round.
Nice.
Right. I got the email. The emails. What the heck is the email? It had like times on there. So I'm looking at the email. And I knew it was the morning round. I said, well, it'll probably start before 7 o'clock. All right. And I'm reading the email. I'm like, you could show up by 6:30. Okay. All right. So I'm like, okay, we have you slated for the a.m. time. Morning registration will begin at 6 a.m.
Oh.
21 years I did morning radio. 21.
Yeah.
Hated every second of it.
Yeah.
Now, once you got on the air, once you got on the air, you're fine. It's Jeff Brown and I had a great time. But I'm talking like waking up.
Uh-huh.
Oh God!
Yeah, it's an adjustment.
Okay, driving.
Yep, I worked, I think, all hours on radio at this point. I did the overnight as well. It was,
Morning registration begins at 6 a.m. Afternoon at 11. Girardi's in the afternoon one. All right. $50 per eagle. Oh, well, you can get eagles when you're playing as a team.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, let's face it. You're on a team that can drive
Absolutely.
the ball.
You're driving, yeah.
Sure.
No question.
I already told the story of the show the other day. I actually got an eagle earlier this week.
Nice.
On 17 on the white. It was the dog leg left. And drive was down the middle. Okay. That was about 120 yards out. I had a gap wedge. I'm like, okay, great. It's like, oh, wow, that's pretty close to the hole. But you remember, the hole's elevated. See, Jack Nicklaus, when you play a Nicklaus course, you know what you notice a lot of holes are? Down. Why? Because he thinks it's more fun and visually exciting when you can see the whole thing. So I hit it slightly uphill, boom, boom, and the ball disappeared. I thought the ball disappeared because it just went past the hole and it kind of just rolled down just a little bit. That's why. So I go up to the green. I look around. Where the heck's the ball? I'm like, oh, great. There's no way that ball went off the green. But I walk to the back where I thought it may have gone. I'm looking in the higher grass, right? So the fringe and the higher grass. I'm like, oh. The heck? Now, I knew I didn't hit it left. So I thought, all right, well, maybe it was like kicked this way to the right. Nothing. I can't find it. So I said, all right, let's do something stupid here. Let's at least look in the hole. I looked in the hole. It's sitting right there.
Nice.
It's like going, all right, we'll put that down as a 2. Thank you.
Nice.
So we have a reception tonight. Are you going to any of this?
I will not be this year.
Oh, good.
Yep.
No,
I know. I couldn't believe the alcohol intake went higher. They popped champagne. I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable.
I'm sorry you're not going. No, it's always fun.
It's always a good time. Absolutely. It's always a spectacular time.
Yeah, it's always fun to have you there.
Absolutely.
At least for me it is. And let's see. That's a Friday night thing. I think it doesn't look like they're doing anything afterward, which is perfectly fine.
Especially the early tea time and the registration.
Well, no, I mean, I've always gone back.
Yep.
It just looks like that they've got to confine to that, and that's great. I know they're going to do something, I think, at the Hawbaker Pavilion afterward. But it's
Yep.
Coaches versus Cancer. It's for an incredible cause. They've raised, $4 million here since it began here, and they put the money out to good use. By the way, the whiteout has been announced. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, your long nightmare is over.
Yes.
Okay? It's going to be Oregon, and the game will be at 7:30 on NBC. Okay? All right? So this is how it's going to play out. The first 5 games have been announced. The opener on August 30th with Nevada will be on CBS. That's at 3:30. The game with Florida International on September 6th will be at noon on BTN. The game with Villanova on September 13th will be at 3:30. That is on Fox Sports 1. The game with Oregon will be at 7:30. It'll be a whiteout. It'll be on NBC. And then the game October 11th against Northwestern will be either at noon, 3:30, or 4, and a network to be determined. So there you go. So the whiteout game will be Oregon, the one everybody had been hoping for. You got your wish. Then there's you. Yeah. Killing us. Sure you're not going to be there tonight?
I won't be, unfortunately. I wish.
Oh, come on. A lot of people love to have you there. I can pay people off. We want him here. All right. All right. Well, I noticed you didn't wear your Metallica shirt today.
I did not.
I think that makes a statement.
That's right.
In other words, you didn't like it. You just bought the merch just to support the
That's
band.
right.
All right. Does it for today. Talked a lot of hoops today, but that's all right. Because it's the primary story.
That's right.
And we'll talk
No
about
question.
the situation with Nate Bauer tomorrow. We'll get him on the show tomorrow, so that'll be great.
Nice.
And have you worn the Metallica shirt yet?
No. Actually, I've not.
Wow. Do you know? Does it fit?
It does. Yep. I tried it on. That was about it.
I'm shocked you haven't worn it yet.
I have not.
Kind of like a badge of honor,
That's right.
right? In fact, next time you're on the show, we may play Enter Sandman just to,
There it is.
just to have you, like that's your walk-up music. What do you think?
There you go.
All right. As Dick Girardi would say, since he's going to